If you own a 70 Series LandCruiser, upgrading your brake booster is one of many ways to increase braking performance. By multiplying the vacuum assistance given to the braking system, stopping power is increased along with reduced pedal effort. Bendix offers the ultimate four-wheel drive brake booster upgrade, and in this video we're going to give you an overview on critical installation steps. This upgrade should only be performed by a qualified automotive technician. First, you'll need to remove the main vacuum line going to the booster, taking note of any check valves present. Next, undo the electrical connector and then the lines going to the brake master cylinder. If you have any caps available to plug the ports on your master cylinder, do so now. Undo the two bolts. You can now remove the master cylinder from the booster. Inspect the plunger seal and replace the master cylinder if any sign of leakage is present. Note, when storing the cylinder during the booster install, if all the brake fluid is drained, you may need to bench bleed the master cylinder. Once the hydraulic system has been opened, ensure the ignition is not turned on until after the master cylinder and brake pipes going to the ABS unit have been bled. When the ignition is turned on, the ABS pump will cycle and draw air into the system, which will require the use of a scan tool to activate the ABS bleeding process. To remove the brake booster, get underneath the dash and remove the retaining clip from the clevis pin and slide the clevis pin out of the clevis to disconnect the booster push rod from the brake pedal. Next, undo the 4 nuts that hold the booster to the firewall. The booster can now be removed, taking note of the spacer and gasket fitted between the booster and firewall. Be sure to note the orientation and transfer these parts onto the upgraded booster. Now, measure the old booster rod length with the clevis fork like so. Now remove the old fork and fit it to the new Bendix booster and adjust to the same length as the old booster. Ensure to lock off with the nut. Next, check the old booster pushrod depth using vernier calipers and a thick steel ruler. First, measure the thickness of the ruler. You'll need to minus this from the measurement. Now, place the vernier like so on the metal ruler and measure the depth. We have 24.62mm total depth minus the 1.7mm for the steel ruler, and our measurement is 22.92mm. 23mm is the correct Toyota specification, and a variation tolerance of 0.25mm is acceptable either side of the target 23mm measurement. If your measurement is within spec, do not adjust the push rod unless preload is identified in the next step. Now check your new Bendix brake booster using the same process to ensure a correct 23mm pushrod length. Once you have confirmed this, we need to verify with the master cylinder. With the O-ring removed, slide the master cylinder into the booster and test for clearance between the pushrod end and the master cylinder. The pushrod end must not preload or contact the master cylinder. Ideal distance between the pushrod end and the master cylinder is 0.5mm. Undo the lock nut and adjust distance until correct depth is achieved. Ensure lock nut is secure on the pushrod end and the O-ring is reinstalled on the master cylinder body before final assembly. Now the Bendix Ultimate 4-wheel drive brake booster can be installed into the vehicle with the spacer fitted. Go under the dash and refit the firewall nuts to the booster and then connect the pushrod to the brake pedal via the clevis pin. Next, refit the vacuum line and master cylinder, ensuring the pushrod end is mated squarely to the master cylinder. Refit the brake pipes, adjusting into the new position as required. With the ignition off, bleed the 2 brake pipes from the master cylinder at the ABS pump side fittings. This requires a second person to depress the pedal so that air can be expelled from the 2 lines going to the ABS unit. Tighten the lines before the pedal is released so that no air is drawn into the line from the fitting. Repeat this several times until there is no air in the lines. Once completed and there is a firm pedal, the system can be tested with the ignition on. If acceptable, move on to testing with the engine running. In the event of air entering the ABS hydraulic system, the use of a compatible scan tool for ABS applications is required. Failure to activate the ABS pump whilst bleeding air out of the ABS system will result in air trapped in the system, a soft pedal feel and excessive pedal travel. Follow the procedure outlined in the factory service manual. Further fine-tuning of the booster pushrod length may also be required to achieve correct pedal height and the brake light switch operation. The brake pedal pressure will now feel different compared to the old factory booster. Most noticeably will be at idle with a slight drooping in the pedal. This is normal and does not affect braking performance. Refer to the following chart for help with diagnosis of any brake booster issues.
Bendix. Put your foot down with confidence.